स्वरूपम राधा रमन नारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। मायापुर गोर्जन मछली कोड़ी की चमड़ी की बात धाम की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपी गोवर्धन श्री ब्रजमंडल की जय। श्याम सुंदर राधा कुंद चिमन अंग तुलसी भक्त देवी की जय। श्री गोपीश्वर महादेव की जय। योगमाया पूर्णमासी देवी की जय। जगन्नाथ देश सुदर्शन चक्र की जय। नरसिंह भगवान की जय। शीतला महाराज की जय। चारु संप्रदाय की जय। चारु संप्रदाय आचार्य की जय। ठाकुर मात्रा श्री चैतन्य श्री कृष्ण गौरी माता शतमत समूह की जय। श्री श्री राधा गोविंद मंदिर की जय। की जय। आनंद गौरी वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समस्त भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री कत्यायनी ब्रह्म की जय। जय गौ प्रेमानंदी हरि बोल। Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Tam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savajutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Sya Ajnanatimarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyartane Shri Shima Bhakti Vedanta Narayani Namane Shri Krishna Lila Patane Sutaksham Agarya Madhurya Gunaishta Yuktam Varam Varanyam Purusham Mahantam Narayanam Tam Shirasa Namami Tridandinam Bhakti Shromanim Cha Shri Krishna Parabhyatiragiri Chaitanya Lilamita Sarasaram Narayanam Tam Satatam Prabhade Namo Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prasharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashashadeshatarine Namo Vishnu Paraya Gaura Prashtaya Bhutale Shishima Bhakti Pragyana Keshava Iti Namane Atimarcha Charitraya Svarnitanam Chapavine Jivaduke Sadartaya Shri Nama Premadayane Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namane Shri Varshavani Devi Traitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namaha Madhuryo Chala Premaja Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Purana Shakti Vikrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatharine Rupanuga Viruda Pasidanda Dvantarine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshatara Nimurtaye Viparanamara Sambhore Paramujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidanandanaline Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaur Avirbhava Bhumestam Nirdeshta Sajjana Priyaha Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Shri Jagannathayate Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhisya Kripa Sindhu Vyacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Krishna Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namo Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sri Devi Pranamani Haripir Jaya Jana Surato Pango Ramananda Tirgati Matsarvasva Parambojo Radha Madanmohanam Divya Vrindavanaya Bhagavati Madha Srimad Ratnagara Singhasanasto Shri Radha Shri Govindadevo Prasthari Seyamanam Smarani Srimad Rasasarasani Vaisivata Prasthita Rakshantenu Sanayopi Govinda Shri Namaha Vrindaya Tulasi Devan Vyaya Kesavasacha Krishna Bhakti Paradevi Satyavachaya Namo Namaha Panchadavakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavanam Bhaktavyam Namami Bhaktavartikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
So for those who are new to the system, we follow from. From means step by step. First we do Guru Vandana, prayers to Guru, then prayers to Vaishnavas. You leading us? Yeah. Prayers to Gaurnitai and their associates, and then prayers to Radha and Krishna and their associates.
So we can begin on page 26. We sing this one together. The Bengali version of Gurvashi. Davanala sama samsara dahane takta jiva kula uttarakarane karna varida kripa varidane guna sindhu guru charana kamala Richagita Vajan Shri Hare Kirtane Rahana Magana Mahatamane Romanchakam Pashu Hoya Gaura Premene Manse Guru Sarvana Kamala Niramarjane Koyani Yukta Anugata Jane Manse Guru Charanana Sarvayushane Ho Ayana Samaya Prasara Krishna Ratisaya Maya Atara Sanaye Nijata Karaya Ande Guru Charana Kamala Shri Radha Madhava Namaruta Gune Ananta Madhurya Nidayasvare Rudati Rajini Harata Kishane Vande Shri Guru Charana Kamala Rajatu Vasanta Raji Samvasane Yukti Vare Shakti Sarvindavane Ati Dakshata He Priyakamane Vande Shri Guru Charana Kamala Sadashastre Gai Shri Hari Swarupa Bhaktarane Bhave Se Anurupa Kinchujini Prabhu Priyakamarupa Vande se Guru Charana Kamala Jara Prasade Krishna Kripa Bhai Jara Prasade Anagati Nai Krishna Tirthiro Sabadhai Bhai Vande se Guru Charana Kamala Guru Devashtaka Adhyatna Kori Brahmano Hurte Pariyuja Kori Vrindavana Nata Sakshakshi Hari Seva Paya Se Vasuti Kare Vande Se Guru Charana Kamala 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 Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Page 23. Shri Guru Parampara. Together. Krishna hoite chatu mukha, hoya Krishna sevo mukha. Brahma hoite naro jaramati, narada hoite vaso, matato he vyasa dasa, puna praya banana banati. Vihari Madhava Vamse Achobhya Paramahamse Shisha Boliyanji Karatore Achobhya Shishya Jaya Kirtaname Parishaya Haradase Jana Sindhutare Taha hoite gaya niti, karadas vijaniti. Rajendra horidot ahoje, tahara kinkaro jaya, dharmanane parishaya, parampara jana bharamaje. Jaya Dharma Dasya Jati Shri Purushottama Jati Tahote Brahmanya Tirtha Shuri Vyasa Tirtha Dhara Dasa Lakshmi Pati Vyasa Dasa Tahote Madhavendra Bhuri Aravendra Puri Bharati Bharati Jananta Shriya Vekadivu Ishvara Puri Dhanya Puri Vena Shikatanya Janaduru Gaura Mahaprabhu Mahaprabhu Shikatanya Radha Krishna Nayana Rupa Rupa Jaya Radhivana Ishvara Priya Dhara Shikha Rupa Damodara Shikha Swami Rupa Sanatana Rupa Priya Mahajana Priya Radhivana Priya Dhari Krishna Raso Krishna Rasa Priya Varana Rotama Seva Para Jara Para Vishwanatha Aso Vishwanatha Bhakta Sata Vara Deva Jananatha Jara Priya Shiva Siddhinara Mahabhara Bhagavara Shikara Vishwara Vara Hari Bhajane Vijara Mora Hari Bhajara Hari Vara Jara Seva Seva Para Sahara Janasana Prabhupada Tarangati Saruparu Gati Dejava Bhagati Jnana Surya Vedanta Kamaya Ratamohanta Varvare Prajajatama Racharira Gauravani Bhakati Vedanta Swami Purarino Prabhupada Dhama Vishwapriya Mahajana Vandanarayana Gauravani Kame Pranadhana Ishvara Harijan Gaurangara Nijajan Vandana Krishna Moradama Guru Parampara Guru Parampara Parampara Guru Parampara Guru Parampara Guru Parampara Parampara Guru Parampara. There's a couple of cars parked on the west side of the building, on the main street there. So please move your cars to somewhere else, because we're not allowed to have cars parked except in just right out here. So if you need to move your car, you can park it either on the highway here, 235, or
the spaces left at Lolita's.
Lolita's Saki's house. Oh, she doesn't want us to park outside her house anymore.
We're tearing up the rats at her house, that's why.
Yeah. She doesn't mind us parking in the back of her house, or down the side, but not in front of it. And also there's parking further down Main Street there. If you're already there, then. Okay, page 36. Vindavana Vasi Shakto. 36. 36. Vrindavana Vasi Jato Vaishnavera Gana Prathame Vandana Kori Shamara Charana Vilasalamati Jato Mahaprabhu Bhumite Pariyavando Sahara Charana Navadvipa Vasi Jato Mahaprabhu Bhakta Sahara Charana Maya Anurata Mahaprabhu Bhakta Jagam Gauradesh Siti Sahara Charana Mando Horiya Pranati Jeveshe Jeveshe Varshe Torangera Dana Purvabahu Kori Mando Sahara Charana Moya Sena Hori Dena Prabhu Jakadasha Sahara Charana Bando Gate Kori Dasha Brahmanda Chore Dejote Hare Jane Jane Tere Purane Juna Jaya Deva Chure Mahaprabhu Jana Java Patita Pavana Vailo Vindue Papilo Nusharana Vandana Kori Tendue Papio Shakti Hori Namo Kori Jorshe Muri Dhamma Matra Kori Sasami Mukera Bhagya Marera Ulasha Varsha Swami Bhava Dhame Kora Nijadasha Bhagavanta Sri Ho Yama Bhagya Chuse Radha Sulama Hoya Prema Dhana Jure Hare Rabasana Brahma Jaya 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 Dina Dasana Prema Vishwaya Hare Rabasana Brahma Ajaya Jaya Jaya Dina Dana Dasa Ela Vishwaya Vaishnava Thakur Jaya Vaishnava Thakur Vaishnava Thakur Vaishnava Thakur Jaya Vaishnava Thakur Vaishnava Thakur Vaishnava Thakur Jaya Vaishnava Thakur. page 200. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jivedvaya Kori. So we do this one together, and then after that, we just can choose and sing call and response after that. So we'll do the Panchatattva mantra first, and then the Shakra Shami Pranam, and then we'll go into this song. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Rupa Sanatana Bhattara Gunata Shri Jiva Gopala Bhata Dasana Gunata Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jivedvaya Kori Swabhashara Shriya Dhama Saharavatari Ajanta Jula Prema Kori Valegana Shikaya Sharana Bhati Bhakatera Prana Daya Atma Nivedana Gopinke Varana Agashya Rakshive Krishna Vishvasa Bhavana Bhakti-Anukula Matra Hare Shikara Bhakti-Pratipura Bhava Vajana-Vikara Sharanga Sharanagati Hare-Vejahara Tahara Katana Sune Shinanda Kumara Upasana Dana Bale Yate Krina Kori Bhakti Vinora Bale Yupara Thori Hantiya Kandiya Bale Are Dovadhana Shikaye Sharanagati Dorare Dama Swabhashada Jaya Gora Hari Swabhashada Jaya Gora Hari Swabhashada Jaya Gora Hari Swabhashada Jaya Gora Hari. Someone can sing Nitai Gaur song.
They need to hear you in the kitchen. We have a mic so they can hear you in the kitchen.
No, this was my physical way of saying that someone else sing. I'm feeling a little.
I'll go to Paramananda, but I'm on the computer, so I should find it.
That's page,
Choose page 60.
Alright, hold on, because I'm on the computer, so. Akruda Paramananda Nityananda Rai Akruda Paramananda Nityananda Rai
अभिमान शून्य निताय नगरे अभिमान शून्य निताय आदम पतित जीव द्वारे द्वारे गिया पतित जीव द्वारे द्वारे गिया आदम पतित जीव द्वारे द्वारे गिया आदम पतित जीव द्वारे द्वारे गिया
I have a computer, sir.
Page 86. 86.
Guranga bodhite hobe pulaka sharira hari hari bodhite na yane pabenira Guranga bodhite hobe pulaka sharira hari hari bodhite na yane pabenira Guranga bodhite hobe pulaka sharira hari hari bodhite na yane bhavenira Ar kave nita Syamarani Get that over. Very big throat.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Govinda ki jai, Shri Gaurnathai ki jai, Shri Girivaj Govardhan ki jai. Together. Ajnanam timirandasya, jnanam janasalakaya, chakshurunmilitam yena, tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Gurave Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namah Yam Pravrjantam Anupritam Apritam Vaipayana Virahaka Taruvajuhava Utriti Tanmayataya Taravo Benidus Tam Sarvabhuta Hridayam Muni Manatosmi Bhaktya Vahina Aparadalakshay Chiptasya Kamadi Tarangamadye Vipamaipam Sharanam Prapadyam Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Tavoivasmi Na jivami tam vina iti vigyaya radhe tam nayamam charanantike. First I offer my unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Diksha Gurudev. Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Astotra Sakshi Shrimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. And the same unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Shiksha Gurudev. Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Astotra Sakshi Shrimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj to Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj, Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Shira Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Vallabh Tirtha Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Dvait Madhav Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Vedant Vaman Goswami Maharaj, to our Param Gurudev Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, and all his divine associates, and to all the assembled devotees.
Before you continue, could we move the chair? It's a little pointed too much that way.
Yeah.
To make it more diagonal.
Very happy to see all the devotees here, especially from Miami. Very nice that you visited us before returning. And from Tampa. So, today we're having a two-part program. The first part will be glorifying the holy name, and the second part will be an inspirational talk by Adi Govinda Prabhu on, let's see, how do you say it? Creating a community that makes the mind and heart and senses more ready, eligible for chanting the holy names. So, there are many of our scriptures and many discussions of our Guru Varga are all about chanting, because although there are thousands of processes to attain perfection, so many limbs of bhakti, Srila Rupa Goswami has stated that of these, 64 are prominent. Of these 64, 9 are prominent, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, and so on, as delineated by Sri Prahlad Maharaj. Out of those, according to the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to Sri Sanatana Goswami, 5 are the most important out of those 9, and that is Sadhu Sangha, associating with pure devotees, and in that association, 4 more are left. Studying Srimad Bhagavatam and chanting the holy name and serving the deity with faith and living in a holy place like Vrindavan, Mathura, or making our situation like that by engaging our mind in Vrindavan and Mathura, Puri, Navadvip. So, of those 5, there are 3 most important, and that is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, hearing and chanting and remembering Krishna. And of those, the one most important is Harinam Sankirtan, and it includes all the other limbs, if chanted properly. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although the greatest scholar in existence, being God himself, and although his disciples, like the 6 Goswamis and their followers, left us so many books, he himself specifically gave us 8 verses which are all about the holy name. Chaito darpanamarjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam sreya koirava chandrakavataranam. This is Prabhupada's tune. Vidyavadu jivanam anandamudi bardhanam patipadam punamrita svadanam sarvatmasnapanam param vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. All glories to Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated not only for years together, but since the beginning of time. We have impression of impression upon impression, and the whole thing becomes one big glob of dust. So many impressions when I was an aardvark, when I was a camel, when I was a bacteria, when I was a demigod, so on and so forth, since the beginning of time, wandering through the 8,400,000 species. So, the chanting cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated since the beginning of time, or the literal words are for years together. And thus we can see ourselves in that mirror of the heart. We can see everyone else, and we can see God. So, Chaito Darpanamarjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam, the fire of repeated birth and death is extinguished. It seems in our intoxicated covering, with our covering of intoxication, we think that we're all right. Our Srila Prabhupada said, what is that all right? Like, you go to a hospital to visit a friend, his legs are up in a cast, he's being fed intravenously, he can't eat, he needs to have a bedpan, because he can't go to the bathroom, and he's full of pain, and then you ask him, how are you doing? Oh, I'm all right. So actually we're in a great fire. Srila Gurudev explained that it's greater than an ocean fire. Greater than a forest fire is an ocean fire. But somebody who's intoxicated by wine, in his intoxication, he forgets his suffering. So Bhava Mahadavagni, that fire is extinguished by the chanting. Shreya Koidava Chandra Kavataranam. Koidava is like a lotus, right, Mukunda Prabhu? So the white lotus of good fortune blooms by the chanting, with the different processes, different stages that develop as we chant more and more purely under proper guidance. We travel through Shraddha, Anartha Nivritti, and Nista, Ruchi, Asakti, natural attachment, Bhav, spiritual emotions, and finally Prem, and then up the stages of Prem. So, by the chanting, the white lotus flower of good fortune gradually unfolds, and then it comes to Bhava Bhakti, when we experience spiritual emotions and no longer identify with these shadow emotions. I'm having a good time, I'm having a bad time, I hate this person, I like this person, they like me, they hate me, I'm hot, I'm cold. These are all shadow emotions that have nothing to do with us, but what does have to do with us as spirit soul is ecstatic emotions of a melted heart. So the chanting also does that. Shreya Kodeva Chandra Kavataranam Vidyabadu Jivanam. Or in Srila Prabhupada's very simple words when we were brand new devotees, he said when we were still at the very first ISKCON temple of 26 2nd Avenue, all knowledge is at your feet by chanting. So, in other words, past, present, future, nothing is unknown to a person who chants the Hare Krishna mantra and related kirtans without offense. Anandam Buddhivartanam. So here we are in Florida, near the Atlantic Ocean. We're not too near, but those who are very near, like you all from Miami, you know that if the ocean, welcome, if the ocean were to rise, the whole of Miami would be flooded. Fortunately, it doesn't. But there's an ocean of happiness that expands unlimitedly. Even though we living entities are only 1/10,000th the portion of a hair, we're very, very tiny, atomic. But the bliss that fits in there is unlimited and ever increasing at every moment, even though that's inconceivable that that can happen. Krishna's bliss increases unlimitedly, his associates, and ours also. Anandam Buddhivartanam Pratipadam, at every step. Pratipadam Purna Amrita Swadanam, one taste, unlimited nectar. And the body, mind, and heart and intelligence is cleansed of all impurities. That's the first verse, and as you know, there's so many, 7 more verses glorifying the holy name. Then, when Srila Gurudev was just starting to collect his brahmacharis and other devotees in Mathura, he gave them some mantras to utter, to glorify the holy name and pray to the holy name before and after chanting. For example, O Harinam, you are the goal of life. There's nothing superior to you. I bow down to you and take shelter of you. Please take away all of my obstacles to become maidservant of Srimati Radhika. Please give me the perfection that you gave to all of our acharyas in the past. You're non-different from Radha and Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and therefore I surrender to you. O Harinam, you are the supreme sacrifice in this age of Kali. Simply by chanting these names, all impurities of the age of Kali are destroyed. In Bhajan Rahasya by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we learn about the various limbs for chanting both the Hare Krishna mantra and Gayatri mantra. The 5 that Gurudev discusses in his Bhajana Rahasya Vritti, his commentary, which stems from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's verse from Hari Bhakti Vilas. There are 5 specific limbs. One is mantra, art, chintan. That means that while chanting the holy names, the sadhaka remembers the meaning of the mantra. What is the meaning of Hare Krishna Rama? What's included in that? We sing in Jashamati Nandana, Amala Harinam Amaya Bilasa. That means in the pure chanting of the holy name, all the pastimes of the Lord are present. That's why Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written songs to the holy names describing the pastimes of the holy names, who has taken the forms of Krishna the enjoyer of ras, Krishna the killer of the Putana witch, and so on. So nam art. Art means meaning. Meaning, thinking, chintan, thinking of the meaning of the mantra. And who are the presiding deities of the mantra? In Gayatri Mantra, each of the mantras has a different welcome. Radhacharan. Each of the Gayatri mantras has a presiding deity. Guru, Gauranga, Radha, Krishna, like that. So who is the presiding deity of the mantra? And what is my relationship with that presiding deity? So within those pastimes, there are personalities. For example, Krishna lifts Govardhan Hill. That pastime is in the holy name. And one of the people involved, one of the personalities involved, is Govardhan. Right? Giriraj Govardhan. So once I asked Srila Gurudev back in 1993, before I continue, Adi Govinda Prabhu, how much time would you like?
If we could start a little after 11:30 or 11:40, that'd be
Okay.
that'd be enough.
Great, thanks. Where am I?
About Giriraj?
Yes. So once I asked Gurudev, is it okay to think of the prayer to Giriraj while I'm chanting the Maha Mantra? On one hand, he's not Radha and Krishna, he's the mountain, but on the other hand, he is Krishna, isn't he? And he manifests from the heart of Radha. So Gurudev said, yes, you can remember anybody who can help you. So they're all there in the holy name, in the pastimes of the holy name. You can call for them from there who can help you and remember them and pray to them. So then the second of the 5 limbs of chanting is called nyas. Sometimes Gurudev explains nyas as the rules and regulations of chanting, like the timings. In the Hare Krishna mantra, there's no rules and regulations. There's no prohibitions. But in the Gayatri mantra, there is. It's chanted at a certain time, with a certain cleanliness, facing a certain direction. Unless that's not possible, like if you're in an airplane facing a certain way, you have to keep your seatbelt on. So nyas means that, but it also means the acceptance of the fact that the deity of the mantra is my protector. And then the third is very much related to nyas. It's called prapati, which means I take shelter of the feet of the mantra devata. That is, the mantra, you could say that it's a prayer, but Gurudev said it's not just a prayer, it's the personality, him or herself. So we're actually sitting face to face with the deity of the mantra. And prapati means I take shelter of the mantra devata, understanding that there's nothing in existence outside that mantra devata. Now that seems rather hard to believe, because The mantra is just this little subtle thing that's like vibrating on my tongue, and even this room is so big. And then there's an Alachua that's bigger, and then a Florida that's bigger, and so on. And the mantra is so tiny. But that is our illusion. There's nothing existing outside the mantra devata. And therefore, the good news is that we can take shelter of the mantra devata by full absorption in the mantra. And we don't have to worry about anything, because the mantra devata is taking care. Because I have the mentality from Nyas that the mantra devata, that is the deity of the mantra, is my protector. And I take shelter there. So I'm not worried about anything. Did I lose money? Did I gain money? Did I lose friends? Did I gain friends? I just take shelter and know that the mantra devata is my best friend, and he's making sure that everything that's good for me is happening. Then, so prapati is general shelter. But then there's a general surrender. I take shelter and surrender. But surrender, we know, has 6 limbs, doesn't it? So the next aspect of these 5 is 6. I'm not saying that 6 comes after 5. I mean to say that in the 4th of the 5, there's 6 subparts. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what are the 6 parts of Sharanagati? I accept everything favorable for chanting purely. That is, if I've just gone to a Karmi movie, that's not going to be very favorable for chanting purely, because I'll be remembering the movie. And once in Badger, Gurudev said, if you simply see a poster, you know those big signs with all the subtle implications in it, beautiful girl standing in front of a car, he said you get such, and then what to speak of watching a Karmi movie, you get such impressions in your heart because you've engaged with that signboard emotionally. So emotionally means it goes in. And then he said that those impressions can remain with you for thousands of births, lakhs of births, he said. Then I met him a few months later, and I said, we were in Mathura, so I said, gee, Gurudev, you know, it's hard because, especially in Mathura, you're not in a closed car, you're in this open rickshaw, and you're passing by all these big signboards of movies of the guy who's sweating and he has blood dripping down his forehead and he's carrying a gun and all that stuff. I said, so how can you not see that? So he said, no problem. And he went like this. It just goes in one end and out the other. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, by being absorbed in the holy name. So, accepting everything favorable, and that includes associations, societies, everything favorable, rejecting everything unfavorable for chanting, thinking that the Lord is my only protector, He's my only maintainer, again, a cause of no worry, and being meek and humble so that He'll protect me, so that He'll see that I'm ready for His taking me over, and then making my desire non-different from His, which brings us to the 5th limb of chanting the holy name, which is Atmanivedana. Whatever I have belongs to Him. It is not mine. I am not mine either. I am His for Him to enjoy. I am not the enjoyer. This is Atmanivedana. Because we've been traveling, going back to the 8,400,000 species, because I wanted to be the enjoyer. And so some people think that Krishna, that the Swarup of the Jiva can't be fixed, because then Krishna would be mean, because that means he would have already created our Swarup, our constitutional form, the who I am in relation to Krishna, my rasa. and then we don't get a choice. So that's not really fair. So really, it must not be fixed. And as I go along in my many lives, in various associations, gradually I start choosing this. I like this one, I like that one. So Mukunda Prabhu and I were speaking about this the other day, and he was mentioning that even before bhakti comes, here comes this sharanagati of making my desire one with his desire. So I can't reach him unless my desire is like his, and it's because my desire has been what I want, I've been transmigrating. And then what to speak of coming to the advanced stages of bhakti, which is Uttama Bhakti. Anya vilasita sunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishnaanusilanam bhakti uttamam. Real bhakti, pure bhakti, is that I have no desire for anything but to please Krishna. And I cultivate the activities of pleasing Krishna for his satisfaction, what he wants, anu, continuously. So really there's no bhakti without accepting that what Krishna chooses for me, that's the best. And what Krishna has chosen as my relationship with him, that's the best. Gop Kumar was wondering, he asked the Narada that if a particular relationship with Krishna is the highest, why didn't he give everybody that relationship? And Narada answered, because Krishna likes to enjoy different tastes. So there has to be varieties of tastes. Like there has to be cows, otherwise how is Krishna going to have an excuse to get out of his house and meet with Radharani? And there has to be cowherd boys, because they also remind him and facilitate his pastimes with the gopis. So all the other rasas, they facilitate and in turn get nourished by assisting in the primary rasa. So then Gop Kumar asked, well, wouldn't the other people get envious then if they don't have the highest? And Narada answered, there's no envy, because the way Krishna's made everybody is that everybody is not only fully satisfied with his relationship, but he becomes mad after it, even before perfection, and that is called greed. Does Mother Yasoda ever want to be like Radharani? She knows that Krishna likes Radharani the best. So what does she do? She facilitates by asking her to come and cook in the morning. She's fully satisfied by being his mother. And that never changes or desires to be changed. So in this way, there are very beautiful descriptions here in the Bhajan Rahasya about how to do bhajan, this whole book. How to do bhajan for the different stages that I'm at, not imitating a higher stage and then just deluding and losing myself. A prayer is given. There are so many prayers given in Bhajan Rahasya, in the songbook, in so many of our Guru Varga's literatures. So, for example, one may chant to the holy name. This is the 5th verse of Srila Rupa Goswami's Nam Astakam. Agadamanaja Shoda Nandano Nandasuno Kamalanayana Gopi Chandra Vrindavanindra Pranata Karuna Krishna Ityanaika Swarupe Twai Mamara Tiruchayar Vardatam Namadhyaya. O Nam Bhagavan, possessor of inconceivable glories, and he's speaking to the name, may my affection for you continue to increase day and night. O Agadamana means the punisher of Agasura demon. O Jashodanandan, O Nandasuno, O Kamalanayana, lotus-eyed. O Gopi Chandra. Gopi Chandra is what? Gopi Chandra. What is Gopi Chandra? Huh? The moon of the gopis. Right, the gopis, you could say, are like chikora birds who only drink the rays of the moon.
So they only want anything in relation to pleasing and attaining Krishna. O Vrindavanendra, the master of Vrindavan, O Pranita Karuna, you who are merciful to those who have surrendered to you. O Krishna, you have innumerable forms. Now he's not saying, O Krishna, the form, you have innumerable names. He's saying, O Nam, you have innumerable forms and innumerable pastimes. So may my attachment for them always increase. Now for those who are not familiar with this is Srila Gurudev's Sri Harinam Mahamantra. We have a whole lot of them upstairs if you'd like to get them before you go. And this book delineates so many glories of the holy name, so many powers of the holy name. In fact, whenever Srila Gurudev would initiate anyone, in most of his initiations he would speak about what he's initiating you into, which is the seed of the pure Nam. That is, because of that initiation, now you have the seed that will eventually turn into pure Nam, from Namaparad to Namabhas, the shadow of chanting, to pure Nam. He said once, you have no idea what I've given you. The same thing with the Gayatri mantra. So in his initiations, he says, just like Krishna can create innumerable universes in 1 second, can you imagine that? Can't imagine that. And in the next second, destroy all the universes. And in the next second, create all the universes, recreate them. So just as Krishna has that power, so Nam also has that power. I once asked, now this doesn't apply to all healers, it just applied to me, because I have a tendency to be puffed up. But I not even a tendency, it's like I live in false pride. But I asked him in 1992, I was just learning Reiki, and so I became uncontrolled. I was like touching everything and walls and people, and everybody was feeling better, and I just became over the moon on that. And then I asked Gurudev, is that all right? He said, you can use it on yourself only. He said, this is a yogic power, and yogic powers can give you pride. Then he said, does Mother Yasoda? Mother Yasoda is 1 atom of her breast milk is the entire Kiradakshai ocean, entire Kirasagara, the ocean of milk in which Lord Kiradakshai Vishnu lies. It's 1 atom of her breast milk. Are she interested in any yogic powers? Is Radharani interested in any yogic powers? Is this yogic power greater than the Gayatri mantra for what it can give? So he's, again, always turning us back to pure bhakti. That doesn't mean that Reiki is bad or that no one should do it. It's just me, because of my nature. So like here, there's so many verses glorifying the holy name. Like you know this one. Harir Nama, Harir Nama, Harir Nama Eva Kevalam. Kalo Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gatir Anyata. To make spiritual progress in Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, there's no other way, and if you haven't heard it twice, here it is the 3rd time, no other way. Prabhupada, I was just reading a purport of Prabhupada's, and he said, repetition is necessary so there'll be no error in understanding. No other way than chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name. So now, and in the songbook, there are also so many, of course, really, the process is to hear. And then the name, the fame, the name, the lila, the qualities, the associates all become revealed. But if we just try to do that without thinking of what we were discussing, different prayers and things, the mind goes off to pray for, gee, I hope the prasadam tastes better today than it did yesterday. It had too much salt. Ram Ram Hari Hari. And they said that to me, and how am I going to get back at them? Krishna Krishna Hari Hari. So therefore, our acharyas, our Guru Varga, has recommended that we remember all these things, and that is in the category of Nam Art Chintan. Like, for example, if we're qualified, we can remember to pray to Radharani, who's the Hare in the mantra. Ha Devika Kubhadagadagadiya Divacha Yache Nipatya Bhuvidandavada Udvadarti Asya Prasadamavudasya Janasya Kritvam Gandharvike Tavagane Gananam Vadehi. O Devi Gandharvika, in utter distress, falling on the ground like a rod, I implore you in a choked voice, full of despair, and pray at your lotus feet. Please be merciful to this fool, and count me as one of your own. Put me as the dasi of the dasi of the dasi. Prabhupada said, you know you're perfect when you go down 100 times down. So we want to be able to chant the holy name, which is the only means for deliverance in the stage of Kali. So we want to accept those things that are favorable. So if a sannyasi acts like a householder, and a householder tries to act like a sannyasi, and a woman tries to act like a man, and we follow no Brahminical principles of cleanliness, and we fill ourselves with junk food and sugar, million things that could go wrong to make our chanting less effective by being less attentive. So now we're coming to the next part of the program where we're introducing Adi Govinda Prabhu, who will share with us his experience, realizations, plans, projects for the benefit of all of us in relation to Daivi Varnashram Dharma as opposed to regular normal Varnashram Dharma, which is you please the Lord so he'll give me all kinds of conveniences. And Daivi Varnashram Dharma is not based on birth, but it's based on quality, connection with Guru, and pleasing the Lord for my advancement in bhakti. So, and we'll also hear about land-based communities. So, Adi Govinda Prabhu. So can you kindly sit here, or do you need to be standing by the screen, or what?
I'm going to put it on the projector.
Are we going to record this as well?
Oh, of course, it's going on live stream. It's Streams of Nectar, Ki Jai. So where does this go? On the screen, on you, or what?
Maybe on the screen.
All right, and where will you be?
And I'll probably just sit somewhere in here.
You don't want to be near the screen so we can see you too, because it helps. That helps when you see the person's expression.
Sure.
It helps to pay attention.
So maybe I'll sit.
We can move this over as you like.
Okay.
Would you like to do that?
No, I can.
I'm going to sit over there.
You are? Okay.
Yeah, working good.
Yeah, I think we'll get it.
Yeah, good to see you too. You staying for here about? You staying here about? Oh yeah,
I thought it was other. Not in the same school stage. I hope
Om Ajnanatimandasya Gyananjanasalakaya Chaksounmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Kripa Kavita Yamaya Adi Bhaksati Vaishnavanam Kripa Valam Madhava Prestakami Shri Bhaktidan Bhavatam Vatashravana. So, thank you everyone for being here and being willing to stay and hear this second part of the presentation today. I have in my heart to share with everybody about what I'm trying to do in Maine to establish a temple. And I hope that a lot of the things that I'm going to be doing in Maine can also be applied to the Sangha here in Alachua as we embark with new land projects by the grace of Indupati. We have a new plot of land, and so some of these things may translate to how we could approach building our community to the next level. So, before I get into that side of the presentation, where I will share about the intricacies of the village and how it can be maintained and so on and so forth, I'd like to share a little bit of scriptural evidence which proves without a shadow of a doubt that Daivi Varnashram is a supportive scientific system for the development of pure bhakti. There's a lot of scriptural quotes, but I'll just read a few of them. And also, after that, I'll share a little bit of the words from our acharyas, which very much emphatically state that we should be practicing Daivi Varnashram up until the point of becoming liberated. And then after that, everything we do is in pure devotion. So, the first verse that I'd like to share is Namo Brahmanaya Devaya Go Brahmanaya Hitaya Cha Jagat Dityaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. This verse is one of the verses that Lord Chaitanya would repeat to Lord Jagannath, and also that Sri Advaita would repeat in front of Lord Chaitanya. And it glorifies Lord Krishna's position as the protector of the cows and of the Brahminical culture. And so it also states in this verse that he is the protector of all living entities. And so this starts to give some indication about the importance of Brahminical culture and cow protection, which are essential for Vedic culture. Srila Prabhupada states in some of the verses we'll read briefly in a few minutes, that by protecting the cows, we are able to better feed the brahmanas. And by being able to take care of the brahmanas, we're able to produce a culture based around God consciousness. And so those three are intertwined. Protection of cows and land, serving the brahmanas, and thereby getting God consciousness. The second verse I'd like to share is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 18th chapter, verse 47. Varnashram vatam dharma esa achara lakshana sa eva mad bhakti yuto nishreyasa kara para. And the translation is, those who are followers of the Varnashram system accept religious principles according to authorized traditions of proper conduct. When such Varnashram duties are dedicated to me in loving service, they award the supreme perfection of life. So, Krishna knows what the supreme perfection of life is. It's Radhadasyam. He's the living example of that. And he's saying here that if we follow Varnashram Dharma, Daivi Varnashram Dharma, and dedicate all activities to him in loving service, we can get that supreme perfection of life. few other verses before we begin the other aspect of the presentation. In the Vishnu Puran, 389, it's stated, and I'll just read the English here. I didn't write down the Sanskrit, forgive me. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the Varnashram system. There is no other way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One must be situated in the institution of Varnashram. Now, some of this may be, you may remember that this was the evidence that Ramananda Roy presented to Lord Chaitanya, as when Lord Chaitanya asked him, what is the perfection of human life? His first answer was that this Varnashram system is in it because of this reason. It's in the Vishnu Puran, it says this. Lord Chaitanya quickly stated that it was external, and that he asked Ramananda to go deeper. So some of the arguments that we may hear in the Vaishnava culture are that since it's external, that it should be ignored. And that's kind of the assumption. But it's true that it is external, of course, as Lord Chaitanya himself said so. But if it were not part of the equation, why would such a great pure devotee like Ramananda Roy have mentioned it? Moreover, the Varnashram system is based on the modes of nature, based on external energy of Krishna. And so for those souls, especially myself, who are conditioned by the modes of nature, it is helpful to utilize a system such as Varnashram Dharma, which can enable the soul to come to the mode of goodness and eventually come to pure devotion. So some of the teachings from this Swami who wrote this book, Village Life, it's Bhakti Raghava Swami. He states that as long as we are conditioned by the modes of nature, that we should obey the rules and regulations of Daivi Varnashram. And up until the point we're liberated, then we can care less. So, those are some statements from the scriptures which glorify the position of Daivi Varnashram. And now, I'd like to share some messages from Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, about the importance of Vedic civilization in the cultivation of bhakti. So, in the purport of the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 8, verse 60, Srila Prabhupada wrote, as long as one is in the material world, he must follow the principles of Varnashram. But devotional service is transcendental. So this should help to clarify the arguments that we should reject Varnashram. It's not a total statement when what you say. The purport, do you?
Whatever you just read, that
Yeah.
is something.
Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 8, verse 60. Srila Prabhupada wrote, as long as one is in the material world, he should follow the principles of Varnashram, but devotional service is transcendental. So this is more evidence from our acharyas which say that as long as we are conditioned souls, we should follow the principles of Varnashram. And it also gives credence to the argument that that is not the goal. That Varnashram itself isn't the goal because pure devotional service is transcendental, meaning beyond the influence of the modes of nature, of which the Varnashram system is created for. So it's not that we should reject Varnashram Dharma simply because it's external. So long as we are conditioned by the modes of nature, we should follow the principles. And for those of you who may not be fully aware of what Varnashram Dharma means, Varnas are occupations. They're like jobs or duties. And ashrams are spiritual orders. They're like containers, spiritual containers. And so the 4 varnas are Shudra, which is a laborer, Vaishya, which is a merchant, Kshatriya, which is a warrior or leader, administrator or king, and Brahmana. Those are the 4 varnas. The 4 ashrams are Brahmachari, which is student life, Grihastha, which is married life, Vanaprastha, which is retired life, and Sannyas, which is renounced life. So this is what I mean when I say Varnashram. And what we mean when we say Daivi Varnashram is that all of those respective activities, duties, and social positions are utilized for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. That is what it means to be Daivi Varnashram. And that your birth does not determine your Varna or Ashram, but your inherent qualities do. I remember reading to this point, Srila Prabhupada would say, if a son has a father who's a doctor, he is not automatically a doctor. Just because he's born in the family of doctors does not mean he's qualified as a doctor. First, he must get educated, he must demonstrate he has certain qualities, he must prove his effectiveness, then he can get licensed to be a doctor. So this is the example Sri Prabhupada gave about orienting ourselves in accordance to our qualities and previous activities within the Varnashram system. So, let's see, one more thing. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote in Sri Bhakti Aloka that the quote is, "But a devotee who desires to properly pass his life still accepts his duties according to Varnashram, as those duties are favorable to devotional service and counted as part of devotional service. All these activities are no longer called karma." So, when we accept a position in Varnashram system, it's no longer karmic, meaning we're no longer doing activities to get certain results, but we're dovetailing all of our activities for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And here he says that those duties are favorable to devotional service. So Srimati Syamarani Didi was speaking earlier about how we should reject all things unfavorable to devotional service and accept those things which are favorable to devotional service. And so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying that Varnashram is favorable to devotional service, so we should not reject it. But I was thinking the other day, sometimes you have pistachios, and you have to take the nut out of the shell, and you throw the shell away. Right? But if you get in the habit of just doing that for some time, you may catch yourself throwing away the nut and keeping the shell. I don't know if anyone else has done this, but I've throwing, all of a sudden I threw away the nut. I was like, I rejected the thing that was actually supposed to be accepted. Respective duties in the spirit. Then the second quote here is from Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita, chapter 3. I believe this is by Srila Prabhupada. It says, "Though all humans have a right to practice bhakti, those who follow the regulations of Varnashram have a much easier time." So here, again, we're hearing that following these regulations, they're very favorable to bhakti. And it actually makes cultivating bhakti easier. As opposed to participating in a social such a sort of bad association through working in such a social system. Working within a Daivi Varnashram system was meant to keep one in satsanga. So you're associating with saintly personalities who are also trying to work whatever they have to give. They're trying to do that for the pleasure of Krishna. But if we're working in a culture and surrounded by people who are not favorable, that's dusanga, unfavorable association, and it is a hindrance to bhakti. So what I'm hoping to encourage our sangha to do is to consider how we might start to work better together. How, if we start to work for each other, we start to work more organized, we may be able to keep a good association and make further progress, or greater progress than we would having to work for wicked people in factories and in different hellish conditions. So without much more ado, I wish to share just a couple more statements from Acharyas, because Srimati Syamarani Didi gave me some very great ammunition for today's conversation in this text. Kriti Ratna by Sri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Goswami. And his statements will very much clear up the confusions. So there's on page 33 of this text, there's a letter 9 labeled On Agriculture and Farming. So he says in this second paragraph, those who consider farming to be somehow inappropriate for Vaishnavas and forcefully stop them from doing it are hypocrites and rogues. Such people do not even know what it means to be a Vaishnava or what Vaishnava Dharma is. Thus, they cannot become pure teachers of Vaishnava Dharma and are not accepted within such ranks. Popular opinion has nothing to do with truth. They are not the same thing. Those who perform bhajana Bhagavan are not entangled in the opinions of general populace. This is a self-evident fact. I conclude here. So, sometimes we hear the arguments in our community that because we're devotees, we don't have to farm, we don't have to live sustainably. And that may be true for some people who don't have that inherent nature, who aren't inspired to do those things. By quality, by activities, they are not meant for farming. So that is true for some of us. For others, our dharma is to take care of the cows. Our dharma is to take care of the land. And so for us, we should do this. And here, Bhaktivedanta Kesava Goswami is saying that if we see someone trying to engage in agriculture, we should not dissuade them from that, putting forth the argument that it is not bhakti. Actually, it is very much a part of bhakti. But it's not the only part. One more verse here. We have a duty to advocate the fact that farming is not forbidden for Vaishnavas. Directives to this effect are found in Nahari Bhakti Vilas and Satkriya Saradipika. Besides, Srila Prabhupada himself endorsed agriculture, stating here by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. Those who oppose agriculture are antagonists of Srila Prabhupada and the Goswamis and are unfit to become members of the society. This is on page 72 of this beautiful text. Letter 42, titled Specific Instructions on Managing a Spiritual Institution. And so now we've heard from both Shastra and Sadhu about the importance of Varnashram, and you start to understand the basis of my enthusiasm to share this presentation with everybody. Is inspired by these references. And so now we'll get into the presentation. We'll go through it fairly briefly. Could be quite lengthy discussion. But for the sake of time management, we'll just keep it brief. So, Her Grace, Basanti Devidasi, has started the International Pure Bhakti Yoga Society. Jai. And
No, she didn't.
No, she
she
didn't.
didn't. She's managing it. Outreach. That's
The
what it's.
prison outreach. Yes,
The prison outreach.
The whole international sangha is International Pure Bhakti Yoga Society.
Outreach.
She began the IPBYS outreach
Ah,
program, which
okay.
includes the presentation.
Please excuse my slip of the tongue. That is for the outreach program of the Pure Bhakti Yoga Society. So this is what I was referencing for Vasanti Devi's program to preach to prisons and just give bhakti, make bhakti available to those people who are in the institutions, and thereby cultivating people to become favorable to bhakti. And my non-profit organization has partnered up with her, hence the lovely string of hearts, to called Panacea Holistic Health. Panacea Holistic Health is my non-profit for holistic health activities. And we have three main features: spiritual transformation, eco-stewardship, and natural healing. And so, combinedly, we're trying to create spaces for people to have a transformation of life within the context of Daivi Varnashram. So our mission is to spread the benefits of Bhakti Yoga and Daivi Varnashram Dharma throughout the U.S. So, the problem that we're trying to address through our activities is that certain regions, namely the majority of the U.S., are missing the benefits of Bhakti Yoga and Daivi Varnashram Dharma. The lack of such educational institutions results in these social pathologies: ignorance, poverty, hunger, disease, premature death, sadness, anxiety, existential crisis, environmental destruction, and so on. And throughout the presentation, we will provide some evidence to the causal links between the lack of Daivi Varnashram and the proliferation of these social pathologies.
I'm not clear. I mean, if I didn't already know, I wouldn't be clear at this moment. What exactly do you mean by Daivi Varnashram?
Daivi Varnashram, as opposed to Varnashram, which is without devotional service. Daivi Varnashram is utilizing the scientific order of the 4 Varnas, the 4 ashrams, for devotional service, so that every activity within that system of social order is dovetailed with pleasing the Lord as the primary objective. Is this sufficient? So our method to solving these problems that are created by the lack of Daivi Varnashram Dharma is to create eco-villages that are centers for temples, sustainable living, natural healing, and Harinam Sankirtan. So we wish to create centers and thereby create a platform to preach in areas where there are no preaching activities currently, such as Maine. I'm just starting with Maine because I have connections there, and it's very relatively easy for me to start a temple there. But it doesn't mean that we can't start or consider starting temples in areas where there is no bhakti yet either, in other places. So from the eco-village education programs on the science of Bhakti Yoga and on other material sciences which are favorable to Bhakti Yoga, such as cow protection, sustainable living, natural building, natural healing, we hope to eradicate the first social pathology. Is hoped to be addressed through the sustainability of the ashram. We're hoping to be able to provide people jobs and engagements to be able to sustain their life in a simple way so that they can not have to be so anxious about where to get income and also not have to take wicked masters.
Are you saying that all these people would be moving to those land projects?
No.
In order to make a living? Or what?
I'll get further into the details in a few minutes, but that if you're inclined to doing the land project side of the project, that we have a position in which you could work and gain income and also perform devotional service simultaneously. So you can maintain your life by doing bhakti, performing bhakti. But there are other aspects of the ashram that aren't necessarily agriculture. That is specifically for those who are inclined to Vaishya activities, the mercantile or agricultural activities. But a true ashram doesn't only consist of Vaishyas. There's also Shudras, there's Kshatriyas, and there's Brahmanas. So we hope to have engagements for people in relation to their innate
Well, it's sufficient if you're going to get into how you would engage. You said we would engage people who have other propensities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we will. We'll get into that. We're going to have a temple. So that's probably going to be the first building that we put up. And we're going to hopefully to install deity shortly thereafter. So that we'll have a facility for the Brahmanas to be able to engage in Brahminical duties, deity worship and sacrifices and so on. We'll also need administration, leadership and management to be able to coordinate the rest of the programs. So therefore we'll have activities for those with Kshatriya temperaments. We'll have agricultural activities, growing food, protecting cows. Therefore, engaging people with the propensity to engage in Vaishya activities. And we'll also, those Vaishya activities will need laborers, so people who are willing to do the physical labor, and therefore giving space for the Sudras to work.
Maybe getting ahead, but are you saying that this is something in the future, or you have a model or something now, or this is something you want to try to inject here at this particular here at an Alachua that could be done?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm thinking without a model or something.
Can you take that mic?
Yeah,
No, it's for the question.
I can repeat the question for now.
Okay, fine.
So the question has been asked whether or not this presentation is to be dovetailed to the activities of our Sangha here in Alachua, or whether or not it's some distant future possibility. This is, hopefully, it's for both. To inspire our Sangha here, to consider these notions as we move forward with the new land that we begin to cultivate, that Indupati has recently got. And maybe as we move forward as a community, we can consider these possibilities here. But it is also for certain that I'll be doing these activities in Maine within the next year. And I also have a model, which you'll be very glad to hear about, that in just a minute I'll share how I'll be approaching implementing this institution in this temple here in Maine. So these are the other points of how we hope that these activities will reduce the social pathologies which are directly linked to the lack of Daiviranashram, such as environmental destruction, anxiety, diseases. All of these social problems can be solved from within the village context. And I hope to show you this in the coming minutes. And of course, existential crisis is also meant to be solved within the village context. Because true village life isn't just material activities, working around people who you kind of like. But it's actually organizing your society to be able to produce knowledge of who you are and what you're made of, what you're meant to be doing. So now we've gone over the problems, and so we hope now to be able to eliminate how we will go step by step into how we will do this, or how I'm proposing that we can do this. These are our steps to change. First, we're gathering community members around the mission, find funding for the land, establish eco-village infrastructure, expand services and programs, create scholarship opportunities, and then create more eco-villages. So these are the steps that we're going to enact. Currently, we're on step 2 for the project in Maine. But luckily, you have a head start down here. You already have the land, and maybe now could begin to consider establishing infrastructure. Yes, Didi?
You know, I think that the reason why Prabhuji asked that question is because of the fact that this is kind of a big picture. I mean, this is like a big, a big picture model, right? So that's probably why it's harder to apply.
I was starting very general.
When you're in a big picture model.
Yes, I was starting very general, and now we'll be getting into the specifics, kind of making it easier for your eyes to see in one glance. So, from infrastructure, expand services and programs, create scholarship opportunities for people who wish to learn, and then create more facilities for the expansion of Bhakti Yoga. So this is the behavior map, and this is what we are hoping that the community we are interacting with will be able to do. So the behaviors we're expecting from others. First is that the community agrees to donate and participate in these activities of Dharma Varnashram. That donations accumulate enough for the land purchase, and events bring benefit and engage the local communities, donors increase enough for new programs, members apply for scholarship opportunities, and the fundraising success fuels new eco-villages. So if the people we're interacting with through preaching in Maine and elsewhere are favorable to these behaviors, then we can have success. I also have, next, how we will hope to inspire those behaviors in the people we are preaching to. And this is called the intervention map. So these are the activities that my nonprofit is going to do, along with Basanti, to inspire those behaviors which we are in need of from the community in order to start. We're going to offer member benefits. So those people who are donating, people who are collaborating, can get some kind of gifts and thank yous for doing such service, such as discounts to the various therapies that we'll be having on site, or educational access to different educational events, so on and so forth. So then we hope to gather donations in person at events, which we've started to do in Maine. Also, we've begun a network with the community to attract people, which is point 3 here. Advertise upcoming programs to pre-register members so that we can gauge how many people will come to the programs. Host students from local schools so we can inspire the youth to take advantage of the educational activities. And then use those proceeds to create new centers for Bhakti Yoga. Now we're on to our programs. We have 3 main programs. The first is natural building. These are buildings made out of cob. Has anyone ever heard of cob? Yeah, a couple of us. Cob is a mixture of clay, sand, and straw and water. And such a mixture creates a very sturdy building. In ideal situations where the land is rich in clay, such like in Maine, one can build a house, because of the very little regulations, one can build a whole house for less than $2,000. Because you're getting all the materials you need for your building right out of the earth. The clay, the sand, the straw, the water.
Even that big one?
Even the big one. Although, the bigger, the little bit more expensive. It takes more labor.
How much?
And you have to consider who's doing the architecture and the designs. But simple buildings, like the one on the left, can easily be done for under $2,000, $3,000. And so we're going to be hosting educational events on this natural building technique. I'm certified as a natural builder, and I'm going to be teaching how to build homes like this. So much of our time is spent paying for a 30-year mortgage, and having to work so hard just for your house is a great obstacle for bhakti. So much attention has to go to activities indirectly related to bhakti. Where if you can put a building up in 6 months that's under $5,000 and live comfortably, well, this is the ideal of simple living and high thinking. So, here we go into the natural building programs. We're going to have educational programs on natural building, and there's various types of natural building, not only cob, but there's building with straw bales, there's building with sandbags, there's all kinds of natural approaches that are very cost effective for people who are interested in building a home or a temple. And so we're going to be hosting these educational events, generally which cost for one person for 2 weeks about $1,500. But with such an investment, one can learn how to build an entire house from the foundation to the roof in that 2-week course and get hands-on practical experience. It's a very valuable service. And these can also translate to fundraising activities for the ashram. So we host these educational events, we teach about natural building. Simultaneously, we put up a building by the workforce of the people who are participating, and we fundraise. So this is one of our key point strategies, is we're going to host these educational events about natural building, utilize the people who have attended to help us build the temple, simultaneously fundraising and putting in the infrastructure, and providing a very valuable educational service that can empower people to live more simply. So here are some examples of permaculture design, or sustainable agriculture. Permaculture is a science of designing agricultural systems, food production systems, that are practically self-maintaining.
We're dealing with the altar now?
Yeah.
How much time do you need so we can tell him?
Yeah, if I could have another 15, that would be nice. Yeah, that's okay? Okay.
Most of his questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, more the better. I just don't want to ask for too much, because I'm sure there'll be questions afterwards.
And do the offering at 1 o'clock, that way, if you take 10 minutes to finish up and summarize, give us time for some questions, and then...
I'll tell him.
Okay, alright, I'll just announce, he probably can hear me. Hey, Jagadish Prabhu, we are going to ask that you do the offering at 1 o'clock.
Repeat it?
At 1 o'clock, can you start the offering?
Yeah, start now.
Yeah, ask.
You did the offering, can you do the RT at 1 o'clock?
Oh, RT at 1.
After you work with us, okay?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
starting there now.
Okay. So you can see that by the beauty of these systems that they're very aesthetically pleasing designs. But this isn't their only function. Permaculture designs have many functions, many practical benefits for Vaishnavas. And installing such food systems can be very beneficial. So we hope to also provide this as an educational event. I'm certified as a permaculture designer, so I know how to implement such systems as these. And we hope to be able to inspire people to grow their own food if they're inclined, or to hire people who are interested in growing food for them in such a sustainable way that it is non-violent agriculture. The current model of agricultural system is very violent, and it causes a lot of disturbances to the ecosystem and produces a food that is most often very toxic and not favorable to bhakti. So we want to produce healthy food to feed Radha Govinda and the Vaishnavas, and this is a very scientific way of how to do that. These are some very beautiful pictures of cows. Part of the agricultural system for the ashram and me, for the long term, will be establishing a cow protection program. This will be in the later phases because of the requirements for funding and how much labor it takes to maintain the cows. But we hope to be able to plow the soil with the cows, with the bulls. This is the Vedic way. If we employ a tractor to do what the bull does, then the bull becomes misused and is not appreciated. And what comes from that lack of appreciation to the father bull is what happens now in America, which is unspeakable to me. So we need to encourage the bull to do work so that he can engage himself in bhakti yoga and we can begin to appreciate his wonderful service to humanity. These are the permacultural principles, very briefly, if you care to learn. These are principles that are overarching guidelines for permaculture design. Observe and interact, catch energy, attain a yield, respond to feedback, use renewable resources. Things that are pretty self-explanatory if you're interested in environmental friendly activities. And here it spells it out very nicely. For permaculture, effective designs can maintain 5 people for a year on just 1/4 of an acre. So if you design the land appropriately, when it is fully mature, it can produce enough food to feed a family of 5 on just 1/4 of an acre. That is around 10 times more productive than the conventional farming method, which only grows food in straight lines. With permaculture, we grow on 7 different layers of productivity. So roots, vegetables, low-lying herbs, fruits, bushes, trees, taller trees, overstory trees, and vines. These are the 7 layers of food production of permaculture, which makes the system much more productive, much more effective. Currently, there are 150,000 certified designers in the world, 50,000 of which is in the United States. So there are 50,000 permaculture designers in the United States, which can demonstrate that this is a pretty big movement in America, even. People are becoming more interested in sustainable agriculture and in addressing the problems of our broken agricultural system. So people would likely be interested in taking the educational services that we provide at the temple. So our other program is natural healing. I have a degree in alternative medicine, and so I'm trying to utilize everything I know for the service of Radha Krishna. And so one of the ways I hope to utilize my education in natural healing is to create a center for natural healing and alternative forms of therapy that can act as a way to provide people with affordable healthcare that is preventative medicine, and also provide the sanctuary a means to fundraise for the temple's necessities, such as maintaining the deities and dressing them very opulently. So retreats for natural healing, there are many different subject matters, such as nutrition, herbalism, stress management, detoxification, Reiki healing, Ayurveda, naturopathy. All of these are very supportive to bhakti, in that they help increase the mode of goodness, the mode of happiness and health, and bring us to the gateway of beginning bhakti. It's very difficult to focus on chanting if you have a very traumatic illness or you have different problems with your health and emotional life. So these things are meant to be supportive for the Vaishnavas. So this is another form of Vaishnava Seva that I hope to offer. The retreat costs can range anywhere from 500 for the retreat per person to 2,500 retreat per person. Therefore, generating income for the temple anywhere between $3,500 to $25,000 with an average size of 10 people. So just hosting one of these events could fund for the ashram for the entire year if we're living very frugally. So this is the other program that we're hoping to enact at our sanctuary is spiritual transformation. We hope to have lectures on bhakti, featuring beautiful scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and so on. And hearing from such literatures from the mouths of self-realized souls. So one of the programs of spiritual transformation is that we hope to host sadhus who are traveling and preaching, two areas where there's very little preaching on bhakti, and attract that as part of the educational service that we offer to the local community. Thereby we get another chance to serve the Vaishnavas and to associate with satsanga. Of course, we'll be chanting with mantra meditation, Harinam, and chanting with japa, and service, seva, purifying activity we'll be doing every moment at the ashram. This is our spiritual transformation program. A lot of this is in more detail in my business plans, but for the sake of brevity, we will just go through here. So here's just some marketing statistics about natural building, which lend credence to how viable these educational services will be to fund for the ashram. Green building in the US in this year is expected to double, and in many countries like China and Australia, they're projecting 5 to 6-fold growth in natural building industry. So natural building is becoming a very big subject in the world, and so we're using this evidence to prove that we will have a great market to utilize this service and fundraise for the ashram. So here's a marketing trend for natural healing, very briefly. In '92, the NCCIH, which is an institution which studies alternative healing, natural medicine, is funded by the government. At '92, it was funded at $2 million by the government. And now, in 2017, it had a $130.5 million funding from the government. So this is demonstrating that there's a great increase of interest in natural healing in our country. And so educational events which provide education on natural healing will be of great service and be a very viable fundraising avenue for maintaining the temple. Currently, it is at a $40 billion global market for alternative medicine. And the yoga asanas, or teaching the various limbs of Ashtanga yoga, is also a very lucrative business in the country. People are paying $16.8 billion a year to receive education in the yogasanas and the various limbs of Ashtanga yoga. There are 36 million practitioners, and we're hopefully going to be able to get a little bit of the market share for this to be able to fundraise very simply for our ashram, just by teaching yoga. These are some of our policies and procedures, coming to the latter third of our presentation now. The first three are based on Srila Prabhupada's inspiration: environmental responsibility with simple living, social responsibility through Daivi Varnashram Dharma, spiritual responsibility through high thinking. We may remember that Srila Prabhupada always advocated for living simply and thinking highly. So this village life is meant for that, to encourage us to live simply and to allow us more time to think about Krishna and the love that Radharani has for him. So we have some social policies described already in our business plan, but a lot of the policies will be determined once we have a core team taking leadership. And since we have a team managing the activities here in Alachua, I'm sure there's already some social policies, which are very supportive from the management side of the community. Some of these policies that we may consider thinking about a little bit more are team building, conflict resolution, village management, and other important factors for village life. So especially conflict management, conflict resolution, I think would be a great service for our Sangha. We could have a means and a policy and procedure to resolve interpersonal conflicts. We may be able to work in better harmony with one another. So the leadership chain of command is followed on the Darvivanashram village, where the king, or the village head, is the leader. He consults with a team of brahmanas, or highly qualified intellectuals, who are like advisors. And then they give advice to a board of directors. And so the board of directors passes down the policies and procedures to supervisors, officers, who then guide and lead the employees and volunteers into implementing them. So this is very general leadership chain of command policies. So here are our key strategies for our ashram. We're going to utilize special skill sets for the sanctuary residents for fundraising events. So, for example, I'm a master herbalist, I know how to build natural buildings, and I can design permaculture systems. So these are systems that are activities I'm going to do in order to try to fundraise for the sanctuary. But other people have other skill sets, and we can find ways to engage their skill sets for the service of the sanctuary, service of Radha Govinda's temple. Second key point strategy is that co-building educational events will be used to fundraise and build new buildings on-site simultaneously. That's one of our key strategies there. Our events will be open to the public, which will be a gateway for prospective clients, residents, and future bhaktas.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you already have land, or you're planning to get?
We're going to be buying land next year, with the grace of Krishna.
Do you know how much?
In Maine, we're hoping to have a 20-acre or 30-acre plot. Maine is very cheap to buy land. It's around $1,000 an acre. So in the last few slides, I detailed the cost, overall cost of starting this in Maine is about $60,000. That's with the land, the well, the land being cleared, the buildings, everything. So we can start a very nice center for Radha Govinda up there very easily. And I do have sites picked out that are saved. I have a real estate agent who I've been looking for the last year and a half with. So we have some very nice potential sites already. So not only will the events be open to the public, which will act as like a segue for people from material life coming into spiritual life, but also we will have growing operations for medicinal herbs that will be. I'm working on creating it into a product line for my uncle's animal hospital, which is how I'm going to be able to fund for the land in Maine. But also in our Sangha down here, we can also consider collaborating to that extent. If anybody wants to grow medicinal plants, my organization can buy them, and we can fundraise that way as a Sangha. But also, apprentices and volunteers will provide essential functions for the daily tasks and event coordination. This is another key strategy, that we will be utilizing the help of apprentices who are there to learn the various educational activities, and utilize our volunteers to manage the daily requirements for the land activities, for the temple activities, for the educational activities, and so on. So this is a brief model outline, a 12-point model outline. We're done with these first 6 in Maine. So they are attend local events, perform kirtan locally, distribute literature about bhakti yoga, gather contact lists of donors and collaborators, begin gathering donations, create events, and distribute sanctified food. So this is based off Srila Prabhupada's initial movement of Harinam Sankirtan, book distribution, Sharma distribution, and so on. So we've been doing this in Maine. We've continued to do these, but we've done up to number 7, where now we're financing for agricultural land on the strength of donations. And once we have the land next year, we'll create infrastructure and food systems, begin the temple events. And once the programs reach maturity, we can begin activities in other communities and create a scholarship program for people who may not be able to afford the educational events, but have the inclination to learn. We can create funding for such people so that they can get the benefit at a more affordable cost for them. So this is what we're looking for our finances. Like I said, we need about $60,000, and according to our calculations, the market, we'll be able to pay that off in under 10 years, around 7 years. And so that's what we're looking for investors. I have some investors in Orlando who are interested, and we greatly appreciate if you have any references to people who might also want to collaborate with our project in Maine. And this is in my business plan document. Hare Krishna.
So you're saying $60,000 with a 10-year payoff?
Yeah, we could pay it in 10 years. Based on those activities, the educational events. Because we saw if we had a 10-group educational event for a yoga retreat, it can generate up to $25,000.
Oh, she has a question.
Mm.
I was just saying, I was just kind of lamenting that you couldn't start it here first, because here we have 12 years of growing season.
Oh, we can.
There,
12
Maine,
months.
there's only 3 years. 12 months of growing season.
Right.
There's only 3 months, really.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, I hope that these can inspire our Sangha here to do these things in the new land that Anupati is providing for the community. Because there's no reason why we can't apply these same principles to what we'll be doing in expanding our community activities here in Alachua.
In regard to that, in speaking about Varnashram and having a Brahminical and Kshatriya head, Prabhupada said without a head, the body is matter dead. So how can we do it here if we don't have a head for that?
So you're asking how would we do it here?
Yeah, because you said, oh, you could just do that. I'm inspiring you all to do that here. We don't have a head for that.
Well, we do.
For your head?
My head is at your service, for sure. My head is at your feet, at your service. I'll be glad to lead this side of things. But I know that there are more qualified people in our Sangha than me, people who have far more experience and who could fill the role quite easily, who are actually already involved in managing and leading the community. So I wouldn't want to.
Managing is one thing, but managing this type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's speaking in terms of what you're speaking about, because you're coming with a whole, you're introducing a concept, and because you're more experienced at that particular time, it would be helpful for someone of your caliber to be able to help the Sangha here to push it on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just saying that it's not really saying.
Well, actually, Indipati has asked me to give a quote for building a natural building on the new land. So I'll be giving that quote and see how it works for the community. In Florida, there's a little bit more tight regulations on natural building. We have to build with wooden frame, but then we can infill with the cob. So it'll still be much less of a cost to build the natural building here on our new plot. So yeah, I'm more than available. I'll be here until at least June, so we have plenty of time to start some things. Yeah.
Are we at the questions part, or are we just jumping ahead now?
Sure. Well, yeah,
I can wait.
We're having just conclusion, but I mean,
Go ahead.
last slide.
I think there's a couple of things. One would be there are some models now of existing functional communities like that, both in our Sangha and within in ISKCON. So I know Nanda Prabhu in Texas, he's built a community with a product-based financial, because finances is always going to be a thing.
Right.
Because if your base community is devotees, you'll find 1 in 10,000 devotees who have money to spare, so to speak. We're being honest.
Right.
So product-based fundraising is a viable thing, and you seem to have a great deal of skills and probably very marketable things, like sustainable housing, like permaculture. So these are obviously things that have interest. So it might be a good idea to have a business startup that funds everything. Like there's a community here, which was called, what is that place? Mickey Singer's place?
Temple of the Universe.
He's
He
in
was an
jail.
IT person.
He's in jail.
Huh?
He's not in jail?
No.
I heard many rumors from him.
Okay. Point being, he was an IT person. He had several people who he knew in the IT community. They all shared a similar vision about a community. So from their business base, they were able to create something. So similarly, Sadananda Prabhu in our Sangha, he had, him and Avadut Maharaj had the Bliss Bar business. That expanded to other things. They got marketing for it. That funded them being able to do what he's doing in Texas. We should have done it here, but he already had the land in Texas. In Gita Nagari, in this town community, they put the focus into developing a dairy product. That dairy product now really funds basically that community.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, because nothing can be done without finance, a lot of times it's finding whatever it is. And this is one of the most marketable things I've heard, the permaculture and sustainable house building, like the tiny houses are big now, all these things. So if you actually either train people here who are interested, or you yourself edited, or so forth.
I was just going to get to that proposal.
Okay, yeah, to make a business, and the business might fund things, because raising funds is always not easy.
We have to find a way to maintain, sustain the services for Radha Govinda. And
business,
that
yeah.
requires money
Business,
to
yeah.
maintain the lights and everything.
She's saying that here we only have 2.5 acres. So how is it possible to do such a project here?
So by the grace of Mukunda Prabhu, I'm feeling like if I could host educational events here for our Sangha and teach our Sangha these skill sets of designing permaculture systems and building natural buildings, then the empowered leaders who get that education could then head the department for implementing them on the new land. But for enough land to grow for the community, which is maybe a couple hundred people, I don't know how many. There's probably 100 people at least that come to this temple, you think?
Yes, at least, yeah.
So you need around 20 acres could easily provide all the food. So if we had some other educational services and we hosted events that could fundraise, we could buy more land and then start to become really self-sufficient in growing our own food, and we could take it from that way. Yes, we're...
Do you know my friend growing up at Ashtotara Sutta?
Yes.
Are you working with him on
Yes,
this?
I am.
Ah, okay.
Yes, I am.
Okay, makes sense.
Yes, he's starting at Ahimsa Dairy up there.
Okay.
I didn't know you knew him.
Well, yeah, so we grew up we're in Gita Nagari together. I know he had this whole self-sustaining thing he did in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Something similar, but just different focus.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
So we're working with him,
Okay.
and he's going to start an Ahimsa Dairy in Maine. He's starting a pilot project, and we're going to try to locate our temple nearby, so that we can volunteer to serve the cows there and get the dairy necessary for the deities. Yeah, so there's a nice little sangha in Maine developing with Asvatara, who's the son of Hare Krishna Dasi, who wrote some very early books on Varnashram Dharma out of Gita Nagari. So yeah. So our conclusion really briefly is that we're trying to spread Varnashram Dharma, Daivi Varnashram Dharma, and our strategy is to create these centers for education on Daivi Varnashram, practical examples of Daivi Varnashram, which are fueled by enterprises that are in the mode of goodness, that are for the health of people, for the health of the earth, and for general welfare of the community, such as natural healing, natural building, sustainable agriculture, and so on. So now we can open it to any more questions if anyone else has some questions.
Now we have 10 minutes. Bima needs to make an announcement for 5 minutes. We have 5 minutes.
Okay. Very good. 5 minutes. Anybody has some comments?
So I've heard different devotees over the years make different suggestions. You hear about different projects, and I'm wondering if you looked over the history of different people trying to implement this and try to learn from the mistakes. That's what I was curious about, because when I first saw the presentation, I was feeling a little skeptical, and then as you got on, I started to see, oh, you actually really did think about this. You have the knowledge. Okay, I was feeling a little more hopeful.
By Asto's influence, he's been very pragmatic with me, and because of his experiences with Gita Nagari, he's been very dry, that there are certain things that destroy a community, and there are certain things that help maintain the community. And if we can learn from what those were, then we can have a greater chance of success. But ultimately, everything is dependent on the Lord's decision. So even if we do everything perfectly, it's Krishna winks his eye, it's all destroyed. But yes, I've done research in Gitanagari with Astro, I've learned from him, and I've also done a little bit of research from Baladev Prabhu. Balabhadra Prabhu. I've talked to him, I've had just one interview with him, but he also gave me some more insights in Gitanagari. There's a community in Turkey, it's a giant Hare Krishna community in Turkey that has a very functional, sustainable eco-village. So I've been looking at these various models and have come to this conclusion that this is what they're doing to some degree, is they're utilizing the services, the skill sets of their residents to be able to maintain the needs of the temple, and they're also providing most of their needs on the land. So they're very self-sufficient. Yes?
You know, I remember reading something I should probably a long time ago. It said something like, if you set up something like that, you can actually even make money just hosting like tours. People like reading, someone doing stained glass or farming with the bulls. People are just fascinated.
Exactly.
And they'll come from all over. If we build something near I-75, I believe we should start out with something with a couple 100 acres at least. And then gradually, then we could have like all varnas and all ashrams there.
Exactly.
Teaching together and doing all kinds of businesses.
It's limitless possibilities. So everybody has so many beautiful skills. We work together in coordination. We can work to create this nice, beautiful, sustainable
Because
community.
we also have to think about the future. I don't see why, I don't know why we got a small piece of land when we should be thinking a couple years ahead of time. Why set something all up in one little tiny piece? I think we should concentrate on getting a huge piece of land and then build from there.
I think what happens is this is what one of the difficulties is.
Money.
Is that exactly the ideas are always great, but the implementation pragmatically is difficult. Anybody call me when we saw the land. So first we have to call the county. We have to make sure the land is suitable for a church. A lot of it isn't. If it's not on a paved county road, they won't accept the proposal. Then you got so many restrictions and regulations. Then it's up for sale right at the moment. And if it's a certain price, somebody else may jump in and try to buy. So you're always up against a lot of pressure. And the thing is, the reality of everything is that you don't have, not to be on recording when we're actually very good friends, you don't have Ambarish. You don't have that kind of thing. Somebody walks in, how much money do you need to do this? You don't have that. Most people are living check to check or reality. And a lot of people also now, they're in the retired phase of life, and they're not generating more money. They're just trying to exist on what they've already previously worked on, so forth. So a lot of this is also generated from a body of people coming up who are now going to invest in what's their lifestyle going to be, what's their working going to be. Like, Adi, how old are you?
29.
29? So if you get, 5, 7, 8, 29-year-olds who are coming together with a startup, which is what happens, right? They get together, they create a company, and they build that company together. That becomes both their livelihood, their lifestyle, and everything else. When, a good portion of our community is 60s, 70s. And they've already done whatever it is they're going to do, and now they're in the fourth quarter. Bajhan life basically
so funding.
Be patient and wait till we collect enough and buy the couple 100 acres and then get a mobile home. And that's what ISKCON did. They started out with a mobile home, and now look, they're expanding.
That's true, but at least start somewhere. Otherwise,
but then you build a temple. Okay. I don't want to go all the way to build like a beautiful stained glass window for a temple that I know that's not going to be there for more than 10 years, and then they're going to buy another big one. It just doesn't seem I don't feel inspired to do a temporary project.
So we have to start from the ground up. And as of right now, as a community, we are very impoverished. Mostly because we're not working very well together yet. But if we start to work well together, maybe we can generate business like Prabhu is proposing. And from that point of having capital, we can then adventure into such a large land purchase. Whereas right now, we're depending on the charity, the great charity of Indupati Prabhu, who's been so kind to our community in providing these spaces. And so maybe we should work with him, because he's already gotten this land. If we start there, which was already available to us, maybe we can start hosting some educational events, funding for future land.
And we're also legally, last thing, because I know BMS making an we're just legally up against the wall here.
Yeah.
So that forced also a decision because we're just legally up against the wall here.
So if you would like the next one?
Well, I just, most of you know, because most of you have made reservations for your books. And I put them aside, no Lord Minute Proof. You did not, No. No. But I'll give you the last. You want the last one?
Sita said she had a book coming.
No.
You have to
Is that what you
email.
got? Okay, all right. But we do have one Kidney Ratna. This is a letter. These are letters.
I don't know if the microphone's on.
Letters and lectures of our farm Gurudev.
It's not on.
It's not on.
All of you who already placed your orders, I put aside. So basically, we have one of these left for anybody who hasn't placed an order. This is the letters and lectures of our farm Gurudev, Bhakti Brigade Keshav Goswami Maharaj, and the long-awaited Madhurya Kadamba. But there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's about 8 here, but then there'll be more shipments coming in the future. But the Madhurya Kadambas are 20. This is 10. They will be.
What about the other 2 books, the Dashami and...
Yeah, that's coming. It's coming. Upadeshamrita and Rajan. Okay. Oh, and there's Mahaprasad.
Haribo!
Just like meet up in Tampa, Florida. Yeah, that's where I live. I'm looking at property. I'm looking at property now. Well, I mean, when I say that, I mean I'm interested in a property. I'm not familiar with this area, but it stands now in Tampa. I mean, I bought a piece of property that wasn't desirable, and now it is. Every 10 to 5. Yeah. So I just happen to be in the right place at the right time. So another 3 years from now, I'll have the I'm new to the game.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a mile away from the water.
This proposal.
Give me that.
It's got a little more. Yeah, right. Oh my God, they're building these pieces.
You have 10? So about 10 ones for that night. Like 4 ones. That was 50 better.
This is from?
Chuck, you have to go. See you later. Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay. Alright. Well, when I come to Miami again, I'll see you. Okay?
You're going to sing?
Alright.
I was setting up the mic for
Alright.
For yourself?
the Kirtaniya of us.
What do you mean? I need 10 bucks. Look at this. Very good. Yashomati Nandana Ranjana Sana Yashomati Nandana
Shaya Hare Hare
Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Syamarani ki jai. Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnu Pasha Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnu Pasha Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitya Leela Pravara Bharat Bhagavat Pravara Shri Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitya Leela Pravishta Shri Srila Sachinanda Bhaktivedanta Thakur ki jai. Nitya Leela Pravishta Vaishnava Sarvabhama Shri Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Gaudiya Varanda Acharya Shri Srila Baladev Bhushan Prabhu ki jai. Shri Ishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki jai. Shri Narottam Srinivas Shanananda Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bharajasa Raghunatha Sad Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Svarup Damodar Roy Ramananda Shri Gaura Prasada Vrinda ki jai. Ramacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Gaura Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Anta Dvip Mayapur Simanta Dvip Gaurama Dvip Madhya Dvip Paras Dvip Durga Dvip Jana Dvip Madhya Dvip Kudra Dvip Makpaka Shri Napadjishtam ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Gopa Vadam Dhala Shivarantika Shri Raja Mandala ki jai. Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kunda Ganga Yamuna Tulasi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Radha Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Deva ki jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudasham Chakravarti ki jai. Sarvavinam Nishkari Shri Shingadeva ki jai. Shri Prabhu Maharaja ki jai. Charitam ki jai, Chari Sampradaya ki jai, Characharya ki jai, Akarmatra Shri Chaitanya Mahat ki jai, Shri Shri Kashya Moviya Madhva Tatsakamata Samukha ki jai, Dhanashmat Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Sinkar ki jai, Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Sankar Vrinda ki jai, Shri Go Premanandi.
Jai Gurudev Jai Prabhupada Jai. Tulasi Devi Maharaj.
Om Vrindaya Tulasi Devaya Krishna
I made a mistake, and I have a couple of the cricket glasses if anybody wants them. The book of letters. Yeah,
Also, there will be a Bhagavad Gita reading tonight. 7:30 here. If anybody's like to read Bhagavad Gita, just 7:30 on Sundays.
Our prasadam will be served in the dining area. Mahaprasad Govinde Nama Brahmane Vaishnave Svalpa Punya Vithandrajan Vishvaso Neva Jayate Sharirara Vijajam Dhridhendriya Kaheka Jive Pule Vishai Shagare Dharmache Jivayati Labhamai Sudornati Takijita Patina Samsare Krishna Paradayamai Koribari Jivajai Swaprashana Dilavai Senamrita Paurana Krishna Gunadau Prema Kochi Hanyanitai Jainamai Jainitai Mahaprasadam Ki Jai Shri Gurudev Ki Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Srimati Syamarani Didi Ki Jai